it's later this year. Precise timing depends on government consent for the change of control on these assets, which we'd expect to take place sort of probably later in Q3 of this year. Precise timing is obviously out of our control, but we've seen other transactions move fairly quickly through the government processes here, and so we're optimistic that it will move forward quickly.
Welcome back to Proactive Investors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Kerry Stevenson. Today, I've asked Andy Butler. He is the CEO of Sunda Energy. They're listed on the AIM, and their listing code is SNDA. They're doing deep water gas exploration in the Philippines. Some results announced out today that I wanted to ask Andy about, and also progress as we head into the second half of 2026. Andy, great to see you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, Kerry. I really appreciate it. Yes, you're quite right. We put out our annual financial results earlier today, reporting on 2025, and also with a lot of commentary on what we're doing in 2026. And to give you a little bit of background there, so our 2025, the focus was on two things, principally on our main project in Timor-Leste, the Chuddage gas field that we're planning to appraise there, and which really was a year of two halves. It was a bit of a topsy-turvy year. We had a good run into drilling our critical well there in the middle of last year. Unfortunately, we had to postpone that, something of an involuntary postponement. But then really we were rebuilding through the second half of the year in terms of getting that project back on track, and also diversifying out from that in terms of the exploration project in the Philippines that you mentioned, which were awarded to us in the fourth quarter of the year. And then this year, the announcement in New Zealand of an acquisition of a material production business with some really interesting, exciting upside within it for exploration and development, etc., and becoming a revenue generating business for the first time in a very long time. So that's really very exciting.
I wanted to get on to New Zealand because I find that's going to be very interesting, and it's almost like a change in strategy. But before we do, if we can just stay, if you don't mind, in the Philippines for a moment, because
sure.
Number one, you've got skin in the game, and ladies and gentlemen, real skin in the game, and you understand this area. I think it's important for people because oil and gas exploration can be quite challenging, but you're very confident in this area. You've been there before. Tell us why, you've got skin in the game, but why are you so confident that this can deliver real, true value for shareholders?
Well, the Philippines is a fantastic area, Kerry. We used to work that area in former company. We took Exxon into that part of the Philippines. It's on the northern coast of the island of Borneo. It's in very deep water, but very exciting, as is the western and eastern sides of Borneo, with very large gas discoveries being made in deep water. So in our former company, we were involved in the gas discoveries that have been made, that have unlocked, that have de-risked the area we're exploring. And we have unraveled an exploration portfolio that is hugely material, with over 10 trillion cubic feet of gas potential in the mid case there, with a lot of associated high value liquids as well. And that whole trend now with exploration coming back into vogue, with energy security issues, with gas in Asia Pacific being really critical, is attracting a huge amount of excitement from major companies and major regional national oil companies. And so the concept there is to do what we do well, which is to apply some good geoscience work to understand the area better, to de-risk it further, and to bring in one of those large players to help us drill some very high impact wells in the hopefully not too distant future, in the next couple of years, which will at zero costs to ourselves. So we basically open it up, secure it, take it on a plate to a large player who will then drill it. And there's plenty of precedence of this, and plenty of precedence for my team in doing this, including on the very assets that we've now secured again as Sunda.
And I guess with your background and the relationships, that's pretty important too, to be able to get that sort of partnership going with one of the big boys.
Yes, absolutely. And this is a relationships are extremely important in this part of the world. I've been down here for 15 years. A lot of my colleagues have. We know the region well. We get on well with players large and small, and that creates business development opportunities.
Before I go down to New Zealand, which is very close to where I am in Australia, Philippines as a jurisdiction, is the government supportive of what you're doing in that gas exploration area?
Hugely supportive. Good question. The Philippines offer probably the best fiscal terms, so the tax terms for oil and gas production and exploration in this region. Some of the best terms in the world because they wish to attract parties in. And they are very, very encouraging of the work that we wish to do. So yeah, we're very welcome, and that's driven by the fact that they have very strong energy security needs of their own. There's more than 100 million Filipinos, and they import most of their energy. They have one major gas field, and that's in decline. And so they're translating that into encouragement to parties like ourselves.
Okay, well, I'd like to get you back on as that develops as we get into 2026. But look, you've gone down. This is what I find is really interesting. It's almost changing a little bit about the company. You've gone down to New Zealand and you're acquiring some assets down there. Can you explain to us the strategy behind this? And again, the value add for shareholders.
Yes, certainly. I mean, it's transformational for us. I've said before, that's an overused word, but it is transformational. It takes us from being effectively a pre-revenue company with long-term projects, very exciting projects in the Philippines and Timor-Leste, which we should come back to. But this makes us a production company. So what we're acquiring is a complete production business. In New Zealand, it comes with 5 assets. There's 4 producing assets. It comes with additional projects, a gas storage project. It comes with some exploration opportunities. This is onshore in the Taranaki region on the west coast of New Zealand. It comes with a team that's highly experienced and on the ground. I'm actually, despite the Singapore background, I'm actually in New Zealand as we speak. I've spent the last week with a good number of my colleagues in transition planning with a local team that's here. The team is excellent, as I say. The assets are really very good, and we're seeing that immediately. So we completed this transaction with an effective date of the 1st of January of this year, before the oil prices jumped up. So we're getting the benefit of present oil prices. The liftings, that's the oil sales occasions that are taking place, have been very robust. The one in May was at exceptional prices, probably record prices here, and with very significant volumes. And that helps us, obviously, as I say, we get the benefit of that, and it helps us with respect to the funding of the acquisition, etc. So we're evaluating all those cash flows. We're going through this transition planning at the moment, and looking to pursue the opportunities that are within the portfolio as quickly as possible once we complete the transaction in a few months' time.
I was going to ask, why did they divest to Sunda? Why did they? How did this marriage come to be?
Well, you touched before, Kerry, on partnerships. So,
Yep.
so the selling organisation we know well. It's another Southeast Asia-based organisation. They did a good transaction last year, and they bought into some production assets elsewhere in the region in Thailand. And so they've changed their focus. They've got some other corporate drivers that, it's not for me to go into, but they basically had a genuine desire to focus on something else, created an opportunity for us. We were slightly opportunistic in identifying that maybe this is what they were going to be going through, and seized on the opportunity.
So what's the timeline? You said a few months down the track, because one of the things that perked my interest was revenue. What's your timeline to get the deal finalized and to get those revenue streams coming into Sunda Energy?
A few months, I think. I mean, it's later this year. Precise timing depends on government consent for the change of control on these assets, which we'd expect to take place sort of probably later in Q3 of this year. Precise timing is obviously out of our control, but we've seen other transactions move fairly quickly through the government processes here, and so we're optimistic that it will move forward quickly. Certainly, all parties want to, and you asked the question about the Philippines. The same is true here. The government is supportive of improving energy security issues. They recognise that gas, in particular, is in decline. We're here to help with that. We're looking forward to investing into these assets to increase the gas production that's there, and other opportunities such as the gas storage that I mentioned earlier on.
Yeah, I certainly know that I think it's Shane Jones, anyway, the minister over there for resources. He's like, yeah, let's just get rid of the red tape and let's open New Zealand up for business. So it is a great time to be in New Zealand. So yes, congratulations absolutely on that one. If we could, just before we finish up, if we could just quickly go back to Timor-Leste,
absolutely,
and what are the next steps there?
So, as we've announced, we are working to drill the appraisal well, the Chuditch 2 appraisal well, a very exciting well that we've been working on for some time. We have aligned ourselves with a company called Finder, an Australian company that is also operating there. You may be familiar with. And so they are planning to drill at least three wells next year for the development that they have for some oil on the western side of offshore Timor-Leste. And that has the great benefit of bringing a drilling rig into that area, and that's very helpful to us. And so we're aligning with them to do that. Now they put some announcements out just last week in terms of their own progress, and are looking to take a final investment decision in that area on their project around the middle of the year. So they're not very far away, and then that basically sort of unlocks things. So we're making good progress with respect to that. We are still pending an extension on the current phase of the PSC with the production sharing contract with the government there. I'll be in Timor-Leste later this week. Those discussions are ongoing, and we're working our way through all of that. So yeah, we're continuing to progress there.
Final question. How do you manage New Zealand, Philippines? Is there going to be more of a focus on New Zealand because that's going to be a revenue generator? So are you looking at that and going, look, let's do some focus there, or is it 50-50? I'm just trying to understand how you manage both those.
No. So the Philippines project, although we have a lot of experience there and we bring that project to bear on the project, we are not the operating company there. There's another company, Australian company, formerly called Triangle, now going to be called Tetragon, which is the operator. So we basically kind of advise and give them some of the benefits of our prior experience and work closely as peers on it. But it's a small part of the attention that's there. Timor-Leste remains very important to us, moving that project forward and preparing to drill a well there. And New Zealand, as I said before, it comes with a fantastic team already in place in country. We will be supplementing that team both with additional resources where they're required in country, and also the benefit of the skills and expertise of my colleagues within Sunda within the region. So that's the plan there. And before you leave me, I'll also touch on, we are very excited about all of these projects with taking all these things forward. We're looking forward to completing that acquisition. It would be wrong of me not to mention we're disappointed with where our share price is sitting at the moment, as I'm sure you've spotted.
Yeah.
It's something that we're very focused on. We think that's a short-term issue as we go through the aspects of funding of the project, as we evaluate the cash flows that we've got coming in, and working out how we close all of that. So we're very focused on it. We're as keenly focused as many of our investors are on it, and we are looking forward to taking this company to the valuations that it deserves based on the portfolio that we're building up here.
Well, it would be remiss of me not to say also that you've got a lot of skin in the game as well. So you've got clear confidence in what you're doing with a couple of $1 million of your own invested into this. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that that's a tick of approval in terms of confidence in where Andy's taking the project to go forward. But really appreciate you taking the time to chat to me today, Andy. I look forward to having you back on the program in the near future. Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Kerry.